Imagine waking up before sunrise in a world where winter is not just cold. It is dangerous. The ground is frozen. The trees are empty. The river is covered with ice. The air hurts your face. The sun comes late, and the dark comes early. There are no heaters, no supermarkets, no warm beds, no electric lights, no hospitals nearby, no thick jacket hanging by the door, just you, your family, a small fire, a rough shelter, and a landscape that does not care whether you survive. So here is the question. How did ancient humans survive winter? At first, most people imagine a simple answer. They think ancient humans were just tougher than us, stronger bodies, harder skin, better at suffering. Maybe they could handle the cold because they were closer to nature. It sounds right, but it is not the real answer. Humans were not built like bears. They had no thick fur. They were not fast like wolves. They were not huge like mammoths. They could not fly south like birds. They could not sleep through the worst months like some animals. A single human alone in the snow was weak, very weak. The cold did not need to attack quickly. They could win slowly. They could steal heat from the skin. They could make fingers stiff. They could make simple tools hard to hold. They could turn small mistakes into serious danger. It could make food disappear. It could freeze water. It could make walking exhausting. It could make thinking harder. Winter was not one problem. Winter was a system of problems. And to survive a system of problems, ancient humans needed a system of survival. That system was not one magic invention. It was not only fire. It was not only clothing. It was not only shelter. It was not only hunting. It was all of these things working together. But even more than that, it was memory. It was cooperation. It was planning. It was teaching. It is the ability to learn from one winter and carry that lesson into the next. That may sound simple, but it changed human history. Ancient humans did not survive winter by becoming stronger than nature. They survived by becoming better at preparing for nature. Before winter arrived, the real battle had already begun. The smartest humans were not the ones who waited until the snow came. They were the ones who understood that cold must be answered before it appears. In autumn, they gathered wood. They repaired shelters. They prepared clothing. They watched animal movement. They stored food when they could. They remembered where plants grew. They remembered where water could still be found. They remembered which places were protected from wind. They remembered what went wrong last year. This was the hidden power of humans. Not claws, not teeth, not speed, not size, but the ability to say, "This happened before," and then act differently next time. A bear survives winter with its body. A bird survives winter by leaving. A wolf survives winter with a pack. Humans had to borrow from all of them. They needed warmth. They needed movement. They needed teamwork. They needed protection. They needed memory. And slowly, they built a survival strategy that no single person could carry alone. The first great tool was fire. But fire was more than heat. Fire changed the shape of the night. Before fire, darkness was a wall. With fire, darkness became a room. A small circle of light could turn a dangerous cave, a rough shelter, or a frozen campsite into a place where people could sit, think, repair tools, cook food, dry materials, warm their hands, and talk. Fire made food easier to eat. It helped keep people awake. It made the group gather in one place. It created a center, but fire also created something less obvious. It created time. When the sun disappeared, humans did not have to stop everything. They could keep working. They could keep teaching. They could keep washing. They could keep telling stories. And those stories mattered. Around a fire, one person could explain where the animals move. Another person could describe a place with less wind. An older person could warn a younger one about thin ice, bad weather, or hunger. A mistake made by one person could become a lesson for everyone. This is one of the strangest human abilities. We can turn danger into information. Then we can share that information. Fire kept bodies warm, but conversation kept knowledge alive. The second great tool was clothing. Today, clothing feels normal. We put on a jacket and barely think about it. But for ancient humans, clothing was survival technology. A hide was not just something to wear. It was a wall between the body and the cold. It was portable shelter. It could block wind. It could trap warm air. It could become a blanket at night. They could protect feet, hands, and skin from frozen ground. But clothing also had a problem. Bad clothing leaves gaps, and winter finds gaps. Warmth escapes through the neck, through the wrists, through the feet, through loose openings. So better clothing meant better survival. A person who knew how to cut, scrape, soften, tie, wrap, stitch, or repair animal hides had power. Not loud power. Not dramatic power. Quiet power. The kind of power that keeps a child alive through a freezing night. Over time, humans became better at making clothing fit the body. They used sharp tools. They used core. They used bone needles. They used whatever materials the environment offered. This was not fashion. This was engineering. Simple engineering. Human engineering. The third great tool was shelter. A shelter did not need to be beautiful. It did not need perfect walls. It did not need a door, a window, or a roof like we imagine today. It needed to do three things: block wind, hold heat, protect the group. Wind is dangerous because it steals warmth faster than still air. A cold day with no wind is hard. A cold day with strong wind is much worse. Ancient humans learned to choose places carefully: a cave, a rock wall, a tree line, a valley, a place where the land itself gave protection. Then they improved it: branches, hides, bones, stones, snow, earth, whatever helped create a barrier. The shelter was not separate from the people. It was part of the group's body. The fire warmed it. The people filled it. The clothing protected each person inside it. The food was stored near it. The tools were repaired in it. The children learned in it. The shelter was not only a place to sleep. It was a survival machine. The fourth great tool was food storage. This may be the easiest part to forget. Winter does not only freeze the air. Winter freezes the food chain. Plants stop growing. Fruits vanish. Many animals move away. Small animals hide. Water can become harder to reach. Hunger and cold work together. When the body is hungry, it is harder to stay warm. When the body is cold, it burns more energy. So ancient humans had to think ahead. They could not assume food would appear every day. They had to save what they could. They dried food. They buried food. They carried food. They shared food. They returned to remembered places. They followed patterns. They watched tracks. They noticed what animals did before storms. They understood that survival was not just finding food today. It was making sure tomorrow did not become empty. And this is where cooperation became essential. One person can gather wood, but a group gathers more. One person can wash tracks, but a group sees more land. One person can remember one place, but a group remembers many places. One person can get sick, tired, injured, or confused, but a group can keep going. Winter punished isolation, but it rewarded cooperation. This does not mean ancient life was peaceful or easy. Groups could have conflict. Food could be scarce. People could disagree. Fear could spread. But the pressure of winter made one truth very clear. Alone, a human was small. Together, humans became a system. One person could make fire. Another could repair clothing. Another could wash children. Another could collect wood. Another could remember where food was stored. Another could notice danger. Another could teach. Survival became a shared project. And that project was bigger than any one person. This is why teaching mattered so much. A child did not need to rediscover fire. A teenager did not need to guess which berries were safe. A young person did not need to learn every lesson through pain. The group could transfer knowledge from older people to younger people, from one season to the next, from one mistake to many minds. That was powerful, because nature makes every generation start from zero. But culture does not. Culture lets a child begin with the lessons of people who came before. And winter made that advantage obvious. If a group forgot how to store food, winter reminded them. If a group ignored shelter, winter reminded them. If a group failed to repair clothing, winter reminded them. If a group separated too much, winter reminded them. The reminder was harsh, but it shaped human behavior. Slowly, humans became animals that prepared, animals that taught, animals that remembered together. This is the big turn. Ancient humans did not simply survive winter with tools. They survived winter with culture. Culture sounds like a big word, but here it means something very simple. What one person learns, others can use. What one winter teaches, the next winter inherits. What one group discovers, children can carry forward. That is why humans became so unusual. Experience did not have to die inside one body. It could live in a story. It could live in a tool. It could live in a habit. It could live in a shelter design. It could live in the way people share food. It could live in the way adults watched the sky, the tracks, the wind, and the behavior of animals. Winter turned attention into memory. Memory turned into teaching. Teaching turned into culture. And culture turned weakness into strategy. Think about that for a moment. Humans were weak, but because they were weak, they had to notice more. They had to listen. They had to watch. They had to prepare. They had to depend on each other. They had to imagine tomorrow before tomorrow arrived. That ability is still with us. The modern world looks nothing like an ancient winter camp. But the pattern is the same. A city is a giant shelter. A calendar is stored memory. A school is teaching before danger arrives. A grocery store is food storage made enormous. Hospital is shared knowledge about the body. The internet is campfire talk at planet size. A weather forecast is an ancient skill turned into science. A supply chain is a group carrying food, tools, and warmth across distance. We live inside systems built by people we will never meet. Just like an ancient child lived inside knowledge created before they were born. That is the real story of winter. Winter did not just threaten humans. Winter trained humans. It forced them to build systems before they needed them. It forced them to respect the future. It forced them to understand that comfort in the cold is not luck. It is preparation. It is cooperation. It is memory. It is work done early. And in a strange way, winter may have helped make humans more human. Not because it made them fearless. Fear was useful. Fear said, gather wood now. Fear said, fix the shelter now. Fear said, do not walk alone in the dark. Fear said, teach the child before the child needs the lesson. Fear, when shared and understood, became planning, and planning became survival. So the next time you feel warm inside a house, with food nearby, light above you, and a screen connecting you to other people, remember this. You are not just enjoying modern comfort. You are living inside an ancient pattern. The pattern began around small fires, in cold landscapes, with fragile humans who had no guarantee of tomorrow. They looked at winter and understood something deep. One person is weak, but memory is strong. One body is fragile, but a group can endure. One winter can be deadly, but one lesson can travel across generations. Ancient humans survived winter because they did not face it as isolated bodies. They faced it as connected minds. They turned fire into a meeting place. They turned clothing into portable shelter. They turned shelter into a shared body. They turned food into future time. They turned fear into preparation. And they turned experience into culture. That is why they survived. Not because winter was easy, but because humans learned to answer the cold before the cold arrived. In the end, winter was not only an enemy. It was a teacher. And the lesson was simple. Survival belongs to those who remember together.